Alright, so we're going to look at just the palletizing function within the UR simulator and just a couple of things around it. We'll delve into it a bit. There's a number of tutorials kind of available on this palletizing technique, so we'll try not to dig too deep, but just show you a couple of hints and tips when using the simulator. Now all I've just started, I've just squared up the robot, just give me a starting point, kind of as per usual. So I've got just everything lined up. So we go to our program and we go ahead and add in our structures, go to wizards, and we'll put in our palletizing function. Okay, so we've got basically kind of pattern that we're going to set up and some of the definitions at the start. So if we click on pattern, go into command, we're able to specify what we're kind of putting together. So if you're just packing in a line, packing as part of a square, doing kind of three-dimensional box or a kind of random list, this is what you have. So we're going to go ahead and do this kind of flat square. We'll pop that in, and basically I'm just going to do a 4x4 square that we're going to pack, so it'll be 16 positions all together within that. Okay, so that will be our pattern square setup. And then what you got to do is you got to define your 4 points of the square. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to get myself in the rough position first, from the graphics here, and then see where I want to go. So essentially what I want to do is I want to bring the robot around and kind of pack in at the front here somewhere. So what I can do is I can just look to move, and what I'm ultimately going to want to do is I'm going to swing this base around so that I'm getting sort of close to where I want to go. Yeah, I'll tell you what, so look, we'll just go directly on. We don't want to force a singularity stop, which actually won't go in this way. That's fine, that's perfect. So we can sharpen that up to 0, and we'll pick directly from there. So you can move that way, then you can just go into your corner command, specify the position, and now this is kind of above, so what we want to do is we want to bring down the robot as well, bring down a TCP because it's going to be below here. So just look at the TCP position, we can come in, bring it right down along the Z. You can see the Z is moving down, and we'll probably go down to about -100. That will do us. And if you wanted to, as I said, you could sharpen that up and put that value in yourself, 100 minus, and click OK. So that's going to be our first point. So we'll click on that, specify that basically that point. Then we go into corner 2. Again, we can specify the point, and what we wanted to do is come across, and then we're going to come down, back across, and then up. So really, if we look at our teach pendant, if you look at some of the values that we've got, and you can make note of these as well. If you just look, we move towards my left, facing this way, you'll see we're moving along in the Y coordinate. Now if you want to specify, move over 400 millimeters and try and keep it kind of exact, you can cancel that out because we can't remember what the starting point was. We can specify it. Oh, made a mistake there. If you do that, you can literally just move back to your starting point. Go back there, move that back, and then we go specify it, that's the right way. So you can look at your Y and you can say, right, I want that to move across, let's say, another 300 millimeters. Okay, because you only got small product that we're putting in. So adding 300 onto that will give you 463.94. So you can see that one there, it was minus. Click it into minus, and then that will bring us across there to that position. So it's brought us straight across. Lovely, we can set that. So then we can come further down. Again, it depends, you can follow this one here. It depends what way you're looking at your square that you're setting up. We'll not worry about it too much. So basically we're going to come down. So again, you know, you can see what's going to move as we come down. It's going to be the x coordinate, okay? So we can go ahead and we can push this forward. Say, what do we do? Did we do 300 last time? So we'll do 300 again. So if we just go 988, click OK, and you'll see that brings us forward now. So the robot will come forward. Let me tick OK. So now it's come over, and then we want it to come back across. That would be our next position, that third position. Sorry, that fourth position would be the next one. Come back, okay. So again, we needed to come across on the Y and back that 300 that we had, okay. So you're going to be basically going back to 163.94 minus, click OK, and that should pretty much bring us back in towards where our square shaped would have been. And then if you want to kind of make sure to specify that point, click OK. That's your 4 corners specified. If we want to have a look at the graphics, it might be easier to look from one of the sides, kind of side on, so you can see. Maybe we'll bring it around the other side, might be easier. So you basically see we've got your 4 rows. You're going to pack from the start in here, and then we're going to move across 4x4 rectangle, and yeah, it's nice and linear across. So if you keep an eye on those, you know, set points when you're moving, you can make it fairly easy and add them in, just making sure you're going in the correct direction. So you'll see in this wee graphics here as well, there's our 4 corners. What we also want to look at is, well, the approach points. We've got the pattern point, we're going to set on some of our inputs and our outputs, and then we've got our exit. Right, so for basically our approach point, this is how we want to approach ultimately our corners, right? And that's our first corner, so I'm just gonna move the robot to that position just for a second, just so we can again visualize how we're going to set up. And if I put this to the front, this was how we were looking, okay? And basically we wanted to approach it from the top, okay? So I'll go to my approach point, go into command, I'll go ahead and I'll set it, okay? And if you remember, we had these, you know, basically above the point, okay? So all I want to do is I want to bring my TCP up, okay? So I'm just going to bring it up. You know, if I remembered what I initially started with at the Z, we could work from that, but I'll go from, again, roughly around 100 millimeters in the plus there from the Z. It should be okay. So that's going to be our approach point. Then pattern point 1 is basically, when we look at this down here, it's, you know, where you're going to place the first pallet, you know, whatever you're packing, your first product. Now, you know, the red points can represent the edge or it can represent the actual position that you're putting it on. So I just try and keep it easy, especially for simulation, and I'm going to be placing it exactly on those dots, not in between them. You could set up either, but basically I just use the same corner 1. If, you know, I move my robot to where I've already specified at that corner, I can then just basically set that waypoint at the same location. It works nicely. Okay. Then we've got to set weight and our exit. Okay. Now I'm going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to use a gripper. Okay. So where am I going here now? Sorry, we got to go into our I/O. Okay. And I've got a couple of sensors already set up. Okay, we'll go through the setup of them again. But basically what I want to do is I've got an output that will turn on the suction, and then an output that will turn it off. Okay, so I'm not just using the one tool that can kind of trigger itself. We're going to imagine maybe a pneumatic valve that's connected to a suction cup that's mounted on, that we have two different outputs to trigger, just to make it a little bit different using the suction cup. Okay, so what I want to do in my set, I'm going to go and set a digital output, and basically what I need to do is I'm assuming that the product's already picked up, and then we're letting it go. Okay, so what I've got to do is I've got to turn my suction off. Okay, so turn that off. So remember, that would have been on because it was sucking and keeping the product up. Okay, and then what I actually need to do is I need to add on, just for my scenario here, where am I going here? Sorry, I need to add on another set, because what I'm going to do then is I'm going to set the suction off, which will blow it out to high. So I can't have them two on at the same time. That's why I've got it, because they're two different outputs, just to show something different. We'll put in a wee wait, just give it a second, just to make sure it's successfully completed them. And then we need to go to our exit point. And because I'm dropping these basically down, I want it to come straight back up. So my exit point is literally going to be straight back up, which is, where I started with my approach point. So I'm going to use those again. So if I just click on that, I can move that back to that approach point, and then basically set that exit point the same. So that will give us everything set up for the palletizing. We can look at the graphics then to see how we actually move through the program. So if we want to go ahead and press play, you see it's coming up and down nice and straight. So you come straight back up and down. So we're avoiding any collisions as we go side by side. If I do turn it to the side, we'll see it just coming up and down very nicely. Try and straighten that up. Where am I going here? So you can see it's going down, it's picking them up. Now, if you had a large product, the robot could be hitting off it already, because the stuff we're putting down are very small products. I've given myself enough clearance going up and down there, so it'll be fine. But that is something to be wary of, that if you had a large box there that you're packing, the robot would be knocking them over. So you'd be better to start packing from the top, placing the first one at the top, and then working your way back. So that's just setting up your corner points as to what way you want to go, and then setting your first pattern point from that as well. So you can play around with that, but if you're packing small products, this will be more than fine. So that gives you a nice sort of visual of how it's going ahead and placing all those parts in. Okay, and it'll do that for your 16 pieces. The other thing just to note is you have the count variable that's keeping track of basically what position you're in, and when you're finished with ultimately packing the full 16. And that variable is going to be very useful in some of the other things that we look at in some of the other videos. So it automatically gets added in there. Once you create this pallet, it will create that variable, that bit of storage location for you to use. Because, as I said, when we look at some other if statements and some script development, that will provide useful. Okay, so it goes ahead 13, then eventually get to 14 and 15 and 16, sorry, and then it'll go back down to 0 and run through the loop again.